Hey everybody, Sam here from Sugar Spun Run, and today I'll be showing you how to make pumpkin muffins. These pumpkin muffins are a super easy fall recipe. They are so moist and fluffy, the flavor is incredible, and they are also really easy to make. I think you guys are going to love this recipe. So to begin, go ahead and preheat your oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, you're going to need 3/4 cup of melted unsalted butter. This is 1.5 sticks. You'll want to melt this in a large microwave-safe bowl. And once you've melted it, you're going to want to let that butter cool for at least 10 to 15 minutes. As you can see with mine, it started to re-solidify a little bit around the edges. We don't want it to get totally solid again, but this is okay. I know it's not too hot and it's not going to melt my sugars. So I'll give this another stir. And now we'll add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar and a 1/4 cup of tightly packed light brown sugar. We'll give everything a nice stir. Now you'll need 2 large eggs. I like to give these a nice little scramble with my fork so that they're lightly beaten before I add them into the rest of my ingredients. This just helps get your ingredients really nicely combined. So I'll add them in with the butter and sugar. And I'll also add 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, and I'll stir everything together again. Now you'll need 1 cup of pumpkin puree. Keep in mind when you're buying your pumpkin puree, it usually comes in a can in the supermarket. Make sure you're buying 100% pumpkin puree and not pumpkin pie mix. So pumpkin pie mix, on the ingredients, it'll have spices listed as well. You want this to just be pure pumpkin. We'll add this in with the rest of our ingredients. And we'll also add 2 tablespoons of milk. Give everything a nice stir. Make sure that pumpkin gets worked into the rest of the ingredients so everything's really well combined. Now that I have everything nicely combined here with my wet ingredients, I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to grab 1.25 cup of all-purpose flour in a separate bowl. Add 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda, 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And now we'll move on to our spices. You are going to need 2 teaspoons of pumpkin spice for this recipe, and I recently shared a video on how to make your own homemade pumpkin pie spice, so you can check that out. I'll leave a link down below. But we'll add 2 teaspoons to our dry ingredients. And even though pumpkin spice contains cinnamon, we are going to punch up the cinnamon just a little bit for these pumpkin muffins, so we're going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. I'll use my whisk to give everything a good stir until the dry ingredients are really well combined. That looks pretty good, so I'm going to bring back my pumpkin mix from earlier. And we'll add our flour mixture right in there. And we're going to stir everything together. I like to use my spatula, and just be really gentle when you're folding everything together. You want your ingredients to be completely combined, but you don't want to overdo it. If you overmix this batter, that is a really fast way to end up with muffins that are too dense or too dry, so try to avoid that. Make sure you do scrape the sides and bottom of your bowl. That way you don't have any pools of pumpkin or streaks of flour that are remaining. You want everything to be nicely combined, just don't overdo it. So now we have our pumpkin muffin batter ready, but we're not going to bake it just yet. I'm going to set this aside and we are going to make our streusel. You're going to need 1.25 cups of all-purpose flour for the streusel. And by the way, if you want metric measurements for any of these ingredients, they are all included with a printable recipe, so you can just head over to that link below and you'll find all the metric measurements there. So this is 1.25 cup of all-purpose flour. And we'll add a 1/2 cup of tightly packed light brown sugar and a 1/3 cup of granulated sugar and 3/4 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. I'm just going to use a large fork to give everything a nice stir until the ingredients are well combined. Now you will need 6 tablespoons of melted butter, and we'll pour that into our flour mixture. And now I'm going to use my fork to just work these ingredients together. With streusel, you don't want to overwork it. You don't want to have a smooth mixture, otherwise your streusel will actually be more like a paste. I'm just going to stir it until things are just combined. Having a few lumps is really good. A nice streusel is really crumbly and usually has big lumps of streusel in it. So don't overwork the streusel. And I'll just stir everything together. Now you do want to make sure that all of your flour gets absorbed into the mixture. You don't want to have any dry, white, powdery pieces. So just make sure that you get all of that flour worked in. A lot of times it'll try to settle on the bottom of the bowl. Okay, this looks pretty good. So now we are going to bake our pumpkin muffins. You are going to need a 12-count muffin tin, and I like to line mine with paper liners, but if you don't have paper liners, you can grease and flour them or spray them with a baking spray. We will fill each muffin tin about 3/4 of the way full, and I like to use an ice cream scoop. It makes portioning the batter really easy and neat. It's a lot less of a mess this way. Now grab your streusel and you're going to use your hands to drop the crumble evenly over all of your muffins, and I do like to gently press it into the muffin batter. Now we can bake these muffins in our 375-degree preheated oven. They'll need to bake for about 19 minutes or until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean or with a few moist crumbs. That is all there is to making these homemade pumpkin muffins. Now, if you want, you can top these off with a drizzle of vanilla glaze. I'm going to include the instructions to do that in the description below. It's really simple, just 3 ingredients, but I like to enjoy these plain even more. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe and this video. I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe and let me know what you think. Leave a comment. I always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.